This is my story, this is the sound of my voice. This time, it is personal. The cold was the first betrayal. Dr. Tao Adebayo stood outside Toronto Pearson International Airport, his wife and 3 children clustered around him, and wondered if this new land was testing his resolve before it welcomed him. Snow fell gently on his coat collar, white specks settling into his wool hat. The children pressed close, their eyes darting at the strangers rushing past with carts and coats, as if afraid Canada itself might swallow them whole. Beside him, Bimbo was silent. Always silent when she was thinking too much. Her elegance was intact even after 20 hours of travel, her scarf neatly tucked, her lipstick uncracked, but her eyes held the same iron he remembered from Lagos, the iron that never truly forgave. A country warm enough to welcome you, Tao muttered, pulling the collar higher. But cold enough to remind you of everything you left behind. No one laughed. Not even the children. Their first apartment was small, but to the children it was a palace. The walls smelled faintly of paint and the carpet was worn, but the promise of newness lingered in every corner. Tao threw himself into his work with the eagerness of a man chasing redemption. At the hospital, his wit made him magnetic. Nurses laughed at his jokes, fellow doctors admired his calm confidence. He was good at this, the work, the healing, the charm. But at home, silence prowled between him and Bimbo. She scrolled her phone at night, sifting through WhatsApp groups from Nigeria, watching videos of weddings and owambis under the Lagos sun. Sometimes Tao would crawl into bed beside her, eager to break the distance with a joke or a touch. Sometimes she would let him. Most nights, she lay stiff, her back turned, her silence louder than any rejection. He knew why. 5 years had passed since Lagos, but memory had no expiry date. The dim hotel room. Bina's laughter. The look in Bimbo's eyes when she found out he had chosen her friend, of all people, for his weakness. His apologies had been endless. His promises desperate. But nothing had rebuilt the altar of trust she believed he had recklessly burned. Now, in this cold new country, her silence carried the weight of an unfinished agenda. That winter, Tao rediscovered the loneliness of migration. Canada welcomed him warmly in public but left him hollow in private. He dug through his old contact list, calling friends in Nigeria who remembered his swagger, his jokes, his sharp suits. Men who had cheated like him and survived the storm. But none of their laughter over long-distance calls could fill the emptiness in his living room. And then, one night, he found the proof. A bank statement left on the counter. A hotel charge. Small, almost invisible, except he knew what it meant. Who is he, Bimbo? His voice cracked. It wasn't rage yet. It was disbelief, a plea. She didn't flinch. Didn't blink. Only looked at him with the satisfaction of a woman who had been waiting 5 years for this moment. Now you know how it feels. Snow muffled Toronto like a secret. The city's lights glowed amber against white streets, but to Tao, everything felt muted, like someone had pressed pause on life. At the hospital, he wore his other mask. Dr. Adebayo, the witty Nigerian doctor who made patients laugh while stitching their wounds, who quoted Yoruba proverbs at nurses until they rolled their eyes and giggled. He was admired, even envied. But every evening, when he returned home, the applause died. Bimbo had perfected the art of silence. It wasn't angry silence, not even resentful silence. It was worse, it was silence that had decided not to care. She cooked for the children, ironed their uniforms, checked their homework. She played the role of the dutiful wife, but the intimacy between husband and wife had been amputated long before the move to Canada. Tao felt it most in bed. The distance. The way she lay as if a wall separated them. He missed the days when her laughter filled their Lagos flat, when she teased him about his terrible singing voice, when her body sought his without hesitation. Now, when he reached for her, she either turned away or allowed it, reluctantly, as if doing him a favor. That night, he stood by the window, staring at the frost-forming patterns on the glass. His phone buzzed on the nightstand. A WhatsApp message from an old friend in Lagos. Tao Baba. Canada Don Humble UABI? When are you visiting us again? We miss your madness. He chuckled, but it was a hollow sound. He typed a reply, then hesitated. He didn't want to admit that Canada had humbled him, not with its snow or its laws, but with his wife's coldness. It happened quietly. No shouting, no drama. Just a statement on a piece of paper. Tao picked up the bank statement absent-mindedly, flipping through until his eyes froze on a line. Holiday Inn $189.95. He frowned. Checked again. His hands began to shake. That night, after the children had gone to bed, he placed the paper on the table in front of her. Who is he, Bimbo? His voice was low, but his heart thundered in his chest. She didn't look startled. She didn't even look guilty. Slowly, she set down her cup of tea and met his eyes. Now you know how it feels. The words hit him harder than a slap. Tao staggered back, gripping the edge of a chair. You did this? After everything? Bimbo leaned back in her seat, her face expressionless. After everything. She repeated. 5 years of silence doesn't erase what you did. You think I would just carry that pain forever while you laugh your way through life? His chest tightened. Bimbo, that was a mistake. No. That was a choice. Her eyes glistened, but her voice stayed sharp. You chose my friend. You chose humiliation. You chose a child outside this marriage. And I chose to remember. Tao felt the room tilting. His mind replayed Bina's laughter, the child's eyes, the weight of his guilt. He thought of the apology letters, the promises, the endless nights begging for forgiveness. He had believed foolishly that time was healing them. But time had only been sharpening her knife. The walls in their apartment had learned the weight of silence. But children always knew how to read the language of silence before adults admitted it. Tola, the eldest at 15, felt it most. She noticed the way her mother no longer looked at her father when he spoke. She noticed the sudden sharpness in her father's voice when he asked questions with answers he already knew. She noticed how dinner time had lost its laughter. One evening, Tola found her younger brother fiddling with the television remote, pretending to be absorbed in cartoons. She knew he was hiding from the sound of raised voices in the bedroom. Their little sister was curled up in the corner with a stuffed bear, sucking her thumb as if she were 5 years younger. Tola marched to the bedroom door and knocked. The shouting stopped, but no one answered. She pushed it open anyway. "Stop it," she said, her voice trembling but firm. "Just stop it." Her parents turned. Bimbo's face was tight with anger, Teo's with helplessness. Neither looked like the parents she used to know. "You brought us here for a better life," Tola whispered, her eyes filling with tears. "But what's the point if you're destroying us at home?" The room fell silent. The television in the living room echoed faintly down the hall. For once, Bimbo looked away first, her phone slipping from her hand. Teo's shoulders sagged, the receipts he had been clutching tumbling to the floor. In that fragile moment, the children were no longer spectators. They had become collateral. And for the first time, both Tao and Bimbo realized that the cost of their unfinished war was not just each other, it was the family they were supposed to protect. Dr. Tao Adebayo was a man who once believed he had figured out the formula for life: excellence in his profession, respect among peers, humor to carry through hard days, and a marriage steady enough to withstand storms. No drama, no spectacle. Just love. That was the man he wanted to be. That was the marriage he thought he had built. Now, the altar he once placed his family on lay in ruins. Every call from Lagos was a reminder of the life he had broken open. The child he had fathered with Bina, the mistake he swore would never define him, had grown into a shadow that followed him across continents. His phone would buzz late at night, and on the other end was a request dressed in soft insistence: school effies, medical bills. Just a little support. Each time he hung up, guilt sat on his chest like lead. Bimbo knew. She always knew. He never confessed to her when the calls came, but his silence afterwards was a language she had mastered. Her eyes would narrow. Her lips would harden. And her heart, already cracked, would fracture a little more. The woman he married, the fiery, fearless young girl who once dared him to dream bigger, who once laughed so loudly her friends called her firecracker, was back. But not the same. She had returned not as a lover, not even as a partner. She had returned as a rival. Her revenge was not only in her affair, but in the way she carried herself now. Every smile she gave another man, every phone call she took in hushed tones, every cold shoulder she turned to him in bed, it was all a counterbalance. A ledger she was determined to even. Tao would look at her and remember the girl he had fallen in love with, brave, unafraid, full of mischief, and it pained him to see that same fire now burning against him. One night, when the silence became unbearable, he whispered, almost to himself, "Not all love stories stretch forever." Bimbo turned from the window where she had been standing, her silhouette framed by the snowy glow. Her eyes were sharp, unflinching. "No," she said, her voice steady.